welcome to Fandom Friday, a podcast series devoted to various fandoms brought to you by the Ocean County Library's annual all-ages LibraryCon, Fan Nation, the Geek Extravaganza. My name is Amy, and joining me today is...
I'm Erin. I'm from the Lakewood branch. I work in the Youth Services Department.
I'm Thomas. I work at the Point Pleasant Borough Library. I'm a library assistant.
And I'm Mike Schubert. I'm from New Jersey. Hello.
Our special guest is what I was going to say, but yes. Also, I did not mention I am also in the Lakewood Youth Services. So for today's episode, we'll be discussing Percy Jackson. Hooray!
Mm-hmm. For a more serious introduction, I also host the Newest Olympian, which is a Percy Jackson podcast where I am making my way through the series for the very first time. I have read the first 5 books. I'm now into Heroes of Olympus. I have seen the TV show and the movies and the play and all that other stuff. And yeah, it's been a really fun journey. So it's been a relatively new journey, but I've very much enjoyed covering the Percy Jackson books as my job for the past couple of years. It's been fun.
Cool. Yes, and please, if you're not already listening, go listen. It's great.
Thank you. I'm very biased, but I also think it's very good.
I'm also kind of biased. I am a patron.
I appreciate the support.
Okay. Erin doesn't have the questions, so Thomas, you and I want to round robin them, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
Cool. So the first one is, and whoever wants to jump in first, go for it. But when did you first get into the books or fandom?
Well, go for it.
Okay, so oldest person first. Makes sense. Okay. I started reading them probably when I became a librarian like 13 years ago. I started to just become acquainted with the literature that my patrons would be reading and was like, ooh, these are cool. I'm going to keep reading these.
Mike, did you want to go?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, as stated, it's mainly because of the podcast. So for the full context, the first podcast that I did at like a really large scale was a show called Potterless, where I never read the Harry Potter books. I never read those as a kid. So it was me reading them for the first time. And I started that back in like 2016, right?
Maybe?
Yeah, that sounds correct. So I started in 2016, and then eventually I was running out of material, and J.K. Rowling was becoming a very publicly terrible person in 2020. So I knew I wanted to eventually kind of shift gears. And even in the years leading up to this, a lot of people would just genuinely message me and be like, you're not even saying this in case you want to start a podcast about this, but if you just want to read some books I think you would like the Percy Jackson books. Like all the stuff you complain about with Harry Potter, they don't do, and all the stuff that you say you do like with Harry Potter, they do. Also, the author is a nice person. That argument came up closer to 2020, but basically, I had always kind of had it in the back of my mind that if I ever did finish the Harry Potter kind of stuff, Percy Jackson seemed to make the most sense. And then adding on top of that, but this was before the TV show had been announced or had come out and all that kind of stuff. So it felt like that fan base was yearning for more people to recognize how good these books are. So a lot of signs pointed to that. And then, yeah, I started reading them. It was like mid 2021. I think I like started reading in March 2021, and then episodes actually started coming out of the show in September of 2021. And given how many spin-off books and sequel series and all that kind of stuff, I think I will be reading this universe of Rick Riordan books for the next like 12 years, which is great job security. So I am excited to ideally read these books until I retire.
Woo! I guess I can hop in. Surprisingly, I can't really remember. I don't think I read them when they first started coming out, so maybe I was in high school, but I'm pretty sure I remember reading the second series, which Mike is currently on, Heroes of Olympus, in real time as they came out. I'm pretty sure. But I was definitely immediately hooked, so...
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I was the same. I didn't actually start with Percy Jackson. I started with The Lost Hero, the first one from the Heroes of Olympus series, and I think they had 3 books out by the time that I started. So I read those, and I was like, wow, this is great. And then I found out about Percy Jackson, like the actual book series for Percy Jackson. And I was like, oh, okay.
So you had no idea. You just thought, wow, it seems like these previous characters have so much built up hype. How interesting.
Yeah, well, because the Heroes of Olympus, the Lost Heroes, it didn't start with Percy Jackson.
Yeah, he's just like...
he's just one of the characters in it.
No spoilers.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm like halfway through the book. But yeah, I at least know that he's not in it, but everyone's like, wow, Percy's so cool. But, weirdly, I guess it kind of does track that you would just be like, oh, there's some guy. It's good to know that you can kind of read those sequel books and just be like, all right, whatever. It's like you accidentally just didn't know. It's like if something came out and then they made a prequel series and then you were just like, oh, they're finally fleshing out the story of Percy Jackson. Thank God.
Who is this kid?
Wow, we've heard so much about him. Now we get to hear his stories. That's cool.
Yeah. Okay, I know another question. What is your favorite kind of monster or a favorite type of mythological beast?
Tough. I think the monsters, specifically like in this story, the monsters that I enjoy are the ones that are more humanoid. So when the titans that come along that are more evil in terms of the way that they think and act, as opposed to Campe, who's just this big, scary, poison sword, beasts around her waist, big snake tail. Like that kind of stuff is less interesting because it's just like, what Percy or whoever will have to overcome is just death and the big scariness of like their physical force. But when they have to deal with someone like Prometheus, who is all just trying to like silver tongue their way, or even Kronos, who is like trying to, since he doesn't really have a full form, is trying to like prey on people's fears and desires and stuff. I think that's more fascinating because it just feels like something harder to overcome, and then also more relatable when you are reading this, whether you're an adult or a kid, when the thing you have to deal with is like emotions and intellect as opposed to how do I destroy the large beast. I find that to be more interesting.
I don't know that I have a favorite monster or villain, but I really like Cerberus.
Cerberus.
The best boy.
I mean, you know, a three-headed dog. How can you not want that?
Of course.
And later there's another one that I enjoy as well, but we won't get into her.
Thank you.
You're going to have to tell me later, Erin, but I don't know who you're talking about.
You'll think of it.
I probably will. Well, listen, I answered this question for myself this morning, and I was like, "What? I don't know what my favorite monster is." My first thought was like, "Does a Pegasus count as a good monster?"
Pegasus isn't a monster.
I know, but I just
Girls and ponies.
What?
Girls and ponies.
I don't know. And then I don't remember that sirens were necessarily in the Percy Jackson series, but sirens
they come up a little bit in Sea of Monsters. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's right. I mean, they're always a cool monster. So that's my half answer.
Just creatures in general. I really like anything like Hydra or Phoenix related. I think those are just really cool. But I would definitely say, like, especially with how they did the new show and everything, I really like Medusa's character design and everything. I thought that was really cool. I like how Rick Riordan plays more into like, okay, who's good, who's evil? Just because they're the gods, does that mean they're right? Or stuff like that. So I really enjoyed Medusa. She was probably one of my favorite villains. Her character design was just so cool. I liked it a lot more than the movie that they did. I like the show version a lot better. It looks a lot cooler.
Like Uma Thurman was having a great time in the first movie, but yeah, I think the aesthetics certainly got an upgrade, and also agreed with you that her being more of the vessel of can we trust the gods, even more so than in the books. I feel like in the books, Medusa was just the first big threat, as opposed to like something that gives us insight and more thought about the gods and their intentions and their trustworthiness and stuff. So yeah, I think what the show did with Medusa was awesome.
I don't remember where I heard this, if it was on a reaction or something, that one of the goals of the show was to make it clear that the gods are not good.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds correct, and I think that is something that's certainly present in the books, certainly for at least some of the gods. Like, they definitely make you want to question people like Zeus.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seems like the show's doing it effectively, which is good. I think it's good. Yeah.
You should always question Zeus.
Question authority.
Okay. My questions are in a different order than yours, Thomas, but that's okay. Who's your favorite character?
It might be the easy pick, but I just love Percy. He's just such a good egg, and I really appreciate his sassiness as the narrator in the Percy Jackson books. I appreciate his sassiness as a character, like when he's talking trash to the monsters, but also he's just such a good friend. He is very considerate of the emotions and the feelings of his friends. He understands when to ask questions, to check in and open conversations. He understands when something is a bit too much of a touchy subject. I think he truly is a good role model for especially a kid reading, but even as an adult, like, wow, okay, Percy's really nice to his friends. So I think he's just so lovable and fun and just a good stand-up guy in a lot of ways that I just have a hard time picking anyone except for Percy.
That's fair. I mean, I also really, really personally also like Grover. So
Yeah, Grover's great. Grover's great.
Did I steal your answer, Erin? Not that we can't share answers. I mean, I don't know. He's always so funny and also a very good friend.
Yeah, I think probably one of my favorite characters doesn't come in until later. So, but yeah, Grover also that's a good name.
Okay, favorite Sesame Street.
Hey, he's the best Muppet. Okay, so
you're not wrong, but go on.
Just the goofiness of him, and like especially in the first book, and where he's just trying to pretend like he's a normal 12-year-old kid. You know, and it's a little bit more obvious in the books, just the goofiness of it. And I'm a little goofy, and I kind of feel though I should also be like girl power and be like Annabeth, because Annabeth is great too.
That was also my favorite character, Grover. You know, he's realistic, okay, and like relatable compared to like the other characters. Like if I look at Percy, like I'm not gonna try to square up with some monster, but Grover's more like, yeah, that's kind of dangerous, you know, maybe I don't want to do that. You know, a more soothing personality, you know, he tries to like re-divert the conversations, you know, if Annabeth and Percy are gonna get into it, like, and I'm like, yeah, same. Like I would be like, hey guys, let's look at this other direction, you know. Like, I don't want to argue.
Oh, no,
well, and he's had a failure that kind of weighs on him, and how he's able to overcome that. I mean, he's not necessarily a failure, but he perceives it as a failure. And then he's still able to keep going and be useful to his friends.
Yeah, I agree. Not counting like this book, my favorite would definitely be Leo Valdez, though.
Oh,
that's the man. That's the man right there. Right?
I'm certainly enjoying Leo so far, even though I only have a brief introduction into him. He has been really great and supremely likable. Just a really, really fun guy.
Leo is great.
Rick Riordan just is great at writing true human characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he really is.
Yep.
All right, let's see. Next question. What is a change from the book to the adaptation? What is something that you liked or disliked about it?
As far as the TV adaptation, I, for the most part, really enjoyed it, especially if you compare it to the movies, which did just such a horrendous job. The change that I did enjoy was like adding in the new scenes with the flashbacks and stuff. I thought was really cool. Not only because it kind of gives the viewer a way for us to learn some of the things that as readers we would know, because there's no narration in the show. So it's kind of hard to get some of that information. You don't want it to constantly just be like dialogue that sounds like exposition dumps. So flashbacks allowed us to get some of that. But then also for people who had read the books, you get some things that didn't exist at all. So like the Sally and Poseidon talking in the diner flashback. And some of the things with like Percy going from school to school, like these are things that are completely new, but still feel of the essence of the book. So I think it's really fun because if you have not read them, you still like get a sense of the characters you're supposed to. And then if you have read them, you're like, oh, cool, new information. How fun is this? You know, it's not just a copy paste of the books. Fun. I think for dislike, I do think, and maybe future seasons will fix this, but I do feel like some of the goofy joy of the book was not translated. I feel like there were at times where it just felt like very serious, still like fun and compelling, but like there's some really goofy elements in the books. And some did still find their way into the show, like the tighty whities of the Minotaur and stuff like that. Like there's still goofy stuff, and obviously there's goofy scenes, but I just feel like not as much of the silly, jokey cheekiness made its way over. And part of that, again, is the narration, because a lot of the sillier, funnier parts are jokes that Percy will make as the narrator. But I also wouldn't be surprised if part of it is the pressure of Disney to be like, this is our Harry Potter. So like they're trying to make it like really very fantasy and stuff like that. So maybe they will have more room for goofs now that the first season is kind of secured. But that would
maybe they could make them a little longer.
Yeah, that's another, again, I don't know who made the decision of number of episodes, length of episodes. Like, it might not be the people making the show. It might be like the algorithm says 8 40-minute episodes, whatever. But I agree. I feel like if season 1 was 10 episodes instead of 8 episodes, you can get in all of the things that were important and left on the cutting room floor. I don't, even if like making longer episodes isn't the thing because it is a kids show and they're trying to keep it shorter, like just add some more episodes, which is easy to say when you're doing season 1, but hopefully season 1 did well enough that they can be like, okay, because just make more episodes does involve lots of more money. But I would hope that the first season brought in enough money where they're like, okay, season 2 can be 10 or 12 or whatever.
Hopefully.
Yes.
This isn't a like or dislike, but it was something that when I watched it, and I actually texted Amy when they're in the tunnel of love. And I'm like, weren't there supposed to be like spiders?
Oh, yeah, you did.
And I'm like,
just,
I wasn't sure if and Amy's like, I'm gonna go check. And like she went and grabbed it.
I couldn't remember.
I think it's probably just hard to CGI a lot of spiders.
That's true.
It's just easier to make one statue as opposed to infinite spiders.
And it was effective the way they did it. And I feel like in the book we didn't ever see my old brain. Hephaestus, yes. I had to go into my head and sing the song. Now that you've blessed us, go talk to Hephaestus.
Oh, I did not.
I don't know that
song.
one.
That sounds like fun.
It's in Another Terrible Day.
Is it?
Yes.
Huh.
After I think when he's talking to Sabrina or Selena. Yeah. Or no, Girls and Ponies. Whoever was the Girls and Ponies. I think.
Selena, wasn't it? Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm going to have to go re-listen to that album again.
Yeah.
I forgot Hephaestus was mentioned.
You know me and my lyrics. It sticks in my head. So that was a change that sort of stuck out to me.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. But I like them trying to get some more of the gods into the mix earlier. And it's fun.
And a nice call out to Willy Wonka and the Terror Tunnel.
Yeah. Until they played What Is Love, which was great.
Perfect. Yes, more silliness like that. Stuff like that was so funny. Get some more of that, please, please, please.
Yes.
Yeah, I would definitely say with the seriousness and less goofiness, just like you were saying before, like, I know that they kind of changed around, like, Gabe, his stepfather, too.
They made him likable.
Yeah, he's not as dislikable. Like before, there would be scenes that hint to things that are like, a harder topic, like abuse or something. Whereas like now, this man just wants to chill on the chair. Like he doesn't really do anything. He's just lazy. Whereas I think once again, that's because Disney want to make it more like child friendly in that age range, I think, to start. Building with the new generation, which I totally understand. But that's something that I like and I dislike at the same time,
Yeah. I was fortunate enough where I got to interview some of the people involved in the production for my podcast. And John Steinberg, one of the showrunners, said that he wanted it to be, he said if Gabe was too terrible, it becomes less believable that Sally, who's a really good person, would actually put up with him. And I think that's a valid point. And we still do get him being like a jerk where he still does the like calling into the news thing and blaming things on Percy. So it's like we get all of the bad Gabe without the physical abuse. And then I think that also could be where like Disney comes in. Because it's just, I think something that some people don't recognize, because there are people giving like certain complaints and stuff. I'm not saying that you're saying this, Thomas, but like there's sometimes like when things are more intense, when it's in a book, you can imagine it as gruesome as you want it to be and you can stop yourself short. Whereas on a TV show, it's like, all right, so Gabe has to abuse Sally. What should he do? Should he hit? Should he push her? You have to like actively make those choices. Whereas in a book, you can just say like, he was physical with me. And then if you're, you can be like, oh, okay. Yeah. Depending on how comfortable I am with defining that. you can define that. So yeah, I agree though. I think he was like not hardly. It was unfortunate how much I liked him, but it was mainly, I think, because the actor was doing such a good job at being a jerk. Like, I totally see what you're getting at though.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, me. I'm stealing a little bit from, although I felt this way too, but from your podcast, Mike, actually. But I really liked that at the end, like Annabeth was actually physically there for Luke's
That was
betrayal.
so cool.
Like,
You're right.
I want to know
so fun.
where it's going to go from there, like how her feelings are going to change, because she doesn't know for a while in the books.
Yeah, I think that's going to be really,
that.
really fun. I think that's opening the most doors. I like it.
Yeah. Okay. Our last question, although we can certainly segue off if we have more things we want to chat about. What was your favorite scene from the TV show?
No question, without a doubt, the driving out of the parking garage in the taxi cab was so funny. That's the kind of humor that I absolutely loved. It was a new thing, so that gave it extra points of like, they just thought of this. That is super cool. And just the way it was shot. Again, I was able to talk with the director of this episode, Joe Wilkinson, and just the fact that they shot it like it was a legitimate action scene in a real high intensity movie, with the camera angles, the music, the sparks flying off, the facial expressions. It's just peak comedy, the way that it was played up, and it was just so funny that I absolutely loved it. And that's the kind of stuff I saw that I was like, that's Percy Jackson. Like, that is the humor of Percy Jackson I love, and I hope finds more of its way into the series. It's just so good. So good.
It's very true.
Yeah.
So I wrote down something which I still agree with, but then I also just remembered, I don't know how I forgot another thing. So I'll say two things. I really liked the diner scenes with Grover and Aries.
Oh, those are fun.
It was just great.
Gosh, yes.
And then also, of course, the Consensus song. How can I not
Oh, God, you're so
bring that up?
Really good. Really good.
One of my favorite parts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a fan of the high action scenes. So like fight with the Chimera when he's above the gateway arch.
Yeah.
That was really cool to me, and him falling out of the arch. I also
Did you watch
thought
the behind the scenes of that scene on the
No, I didn't.
So there's a Disney Plus thing called, like, I think it's you have to like find it separately. It's not like one of the extras or whatever. It's called like A Hero's Journey, the making of Percy Jackson. I think because like technically it was made by a different documentary team, so it has a separate listing, blah, blah, blah. But it's like an hour-long thing with behind the scenes, and they have how they did the drop out of the arch. It's super cool.
Oh, yeah.
Not to interrupt you, but I wanted to let you know that like that is
Yeah. I'll look at
I want to go watch that.
It's really good.
Yeah, I also liked like after the fall when he's in the water and he talks to like the jellyfish lady. I was like, oh my gosh, that is so cool. I was like, wow, this character design. I was like, awesome.
Super cool.
Also, I slept since the last time I watched it.
So it's been refreshed.
I enjoyed the diner scene a lot when it was just Grover and Aries.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed that. I think I really enjoyed the scene in the Tunnel of Love after Percy is encased in gold, and the speech that Annabeth gives to Hephaestus. Now, can Percy hear her, or does he not hear her? Because clearly,
I think he does.
Okay,
I think so.
because clearly that's her. If nothing else, she's proving that she's his friend at that point, and that she's not his enemy, which at that point I think he had determined that she wasn't anyway. But that was such a moving speech, and also it also underscored what they were talking about and how they're clearly trying to portray the gods as kind of being terrible people.
Yeah. Along those lines, I also really enjoyed the scene with Percy and Zeus when they're actually talking on Olympus.
Yeah.
It is unfortunate that the actor who played Zeus is no longer with us. Lance Reddick is an incredible actor, but like, just, oh man, the emotion of that scene, the anger from Zeus, the pushing back on authority from Percy, just the facial expressions from Lance Reddick alone. Like, it was just a really powerful scene. Poseidon coming in after, that one was just, so much is building to that moment, and it was just incredible.
Do you guys have a favorite god or goddess from the Percy Jackson series?
From the series.
I don't know.
Not from this series, no.
Okay.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. Let's see. There's a lot of really good ones. I really did enjoy Artemis. She seemed to be like the most level-headed of all the gods and goddesses, which was nice. And Mr. D is really fun. He has a really fun arc where, he's so curmudgeonly and abrasive, and you just hate how rude he is to Percy. And then by the end, he's still rude to Percy in book 5, but that he likes him. You can tell that deep inside. So I think in terms of the most interesting and the most I enjoyed from like a full experience, I fully was like, grumble, grumble, Mr. D in book 1. And by book 5, I was like, I see you, Mr. D. Yep. I know you like Percy and you don't want to say it. Tough love kind of thing. So yeah, I really enjoy him as a character. Also, just such a funny thing to make the wine guy in charge of the kids' camp. It's just such a funny voice by Rick. Throwing on like the leopard print jumpsuits and everything. It's just the really cool suit he wears at the end of book 4. Like, there's so many fun Mr. D choices. And then especially, it wasn't until after I finished the books that I learned more about like the god Dionysus itself, and like the actual mythology, and just like how wild and sometimes messed up those stories can be. And you're like, this guy's in charge of the camp. Okay.
But he's also not allowed to have alcohol.
Right, exactly.
That's true.
Taking away his main. I think Rick made the most fun choices with that, and I think it's just such an interesting way to take it. And that's some of the fun of Greek mythology, is just like taking it in interesting directions. Like, I play a lot of Hades video game, and in Hades 2 there's some really funny choices where like one of the bad guys is Scylla and the Sirens, and they're like a punk rock band. You can do so many fun twists with Greek mythology, and for Uncle Rick to completely zag from the traditional Dionysus, I think is very fun.
I don't know if I have a favorite.
My favorite is also a god when they're in a human form and they are...
yes. Shh. No spoilers.
You are doing a great job of saying the things to at least clue in Amy, and I'm just like, oh, wow, that sounds like fun. I'll get to that in 4 books.
I have to agree with you, Erin.
It's actually not even in the Heroes of Olympus series. So
maybe, okay. I will.
Yeah.
Maybe Trials of Apollo. We'll have to see. I got a lot ahead of me. I'm excited. I'm very excited.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I guess otherwise I agree with Mr. D and Artemis. I mean, Poseidon tries, but he's still one of the big 3.
Yeah, I would say out of the other gods, I'd probably have to pick Hephaestus or like Hades or something. I feel like they're more fun, relaxed,
Yeah.
Like, I definitely like that vibe a lot more for the gods,
Yeah, Hades was a really fun interpretation. I loved the way that books did it, because I feel like he had some of the humor of Hercules Disney movie Hades, but then some of the intimidation factor of Hades from Hades, the video game Hades. It kind of felt like a best of all worlds Hades, where it's like you get the sass, you get the I'm terrified of this guy, but it's not just your traditional like fire, wings, blah Hades that we get in the Lightning Thief movie.
I feel like in the books he's even a little bit more likable.
Yeah.
I found he didn't have a lot of screen time, honestly, but in the books he's just sort of like, my other 2 brothers get all the fame and I'm just stuck down here. I'm following all the rules.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that the show can flesh him out more, because he does like show up more in the series a little bit later. Like, he is a major player in book 5. Obviously, he comes into the mix in the Demigod Files, if that gets thrown in anywhere into the series. So there's like more Hades to happen in the PJO story that I would hope the show gets into it. But yeah, I agree that he has some more likable things in the books that didn't make their way into the show. Like, I loved when he complained about Charon wanting a pay raise all the time. Like, of the disgruntled boss energy. Like, I hate that I have to manage a team of employees. Hades. And that's, I think, one of the funniest things about Hades, the video game Hades, is it really like, I have to run a company down here. Like, paper pushing Hades is so funny to me.
Before we outro, must be librarians. All of the Rick Riordan series, all of the Rick Riordan Presents are available. Print, Hoopla, and Libby, probably, right, Erin?
It's a mix. Yeah, it's a mix on the between
Hoopla and
Libby and Hoopla. Yeah.
But if you haven't read, or you want to reread, or you want to read, Or listen. Sorry, yes.
Yeah.
Erin
they
is
got
an
the
avid
audiobooks.
audiobook listener.
Yeah, that's actually
I
what
have-
I do. I listen to them in the car on the way
Yep.
home and to work just to get
Nice.
things done better. I'd also like to say if everyone listening does like the Rick Riordan series, the Percy Jackson series, I know the series Secrets of the Immortal Nicholas Flamel. That is pretty similar in writing style. They both use magic. This one has alchemist, brother and sister twins, paranormal, like fiction vibe. But that one's also really good. We have the book copy and we have it on Libby. I would definitely recommend that one as well. The Alchemist is the first book in that trilogy.
I have to go back and reread those eventually. It's been years.
Yeah.
But I did read them.
I did not.
That's okay.
Thank you for bringing up Libby. I need to a reminder that I was supposed to try to put on holds for because you can like hook up Libby to like an e-reader.
Yes,
Now
that's
that
what I
my
do.
wife and I we've got a newborn. Reading books with two hands is a bit tricky these days. So
You don't say.
we have physical copies of my wife is farther ahead of me than where I'm at. She's reading the Trials of Apollo's books, and she's like, if you could get these onto our e-reader, that would be nice. Because holding sleeping baby and also book, or like feeding baby and also holding book, a little tricky. So once we finish this recording, I will place the holds on Libby. But yeah,
It's great.
so cool that the library allows that. We're pretty close to our local library here, and it's
Nice.
lovely. And I can't wait for our little one to be old enough where I get to take her to the library. Oh my God, it's gonna be the best. It's gonna be so good. I'm so
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah.
Hey, if you're ever in a hometown, come take her to us.
Yes. No. Oh, I would love to. We can do the whole tour. Like,
Yeah.
Move over state parks. Let's go to every or national parks.
Ocean County
Let's go to
Library.
All the
every New
libraries.
Jersey library.
Yeah.
We'll get a scratch off map and everything. On it. Yeah. It'd be super fun.
Amazing.
Now we have Kelly and I have a couple like nieces and nephews, and we took our nephew to a library in Utah where Kelly's family lives, and gosh, their kids section ruled. They had cool toys, they had cool books, they had cool furniture. Oh, it was amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, we have toys and books. We don't necessarily have the cool furniture, though.
Look,
Not
always
yet.
room for growth. You two can
Wow.
get a bench that's in the shape of a caterpillar.
Oh,
If we only had the space.
maybe one day. Thanks for listening. Be sure to visit our website, theoceancountylibrary.org/teens/fannation for a listing of all events happening this year. All titles mentioned on today's episode can be accessed for free with your library card. Until next time, have a fantastic day.